Good afternoon, and welcome to today's VetNet Entrepreneurship Track Hangout presentation entitled EBV Business Competition Winners, a conversation with all of our pitch competitors who won a prize at the EBV National Conference in Atlanta. My name is Michael Shenik, and I'm the Program Manager for VetNet here at the Institute for Veterans and Military Families, located on the campus of Syracuse University. Before we get started, I'd like to first go through a few housekeeping notes in regards to how we'll handle any questions. So we'll hold all questions till the end. If you are watching and participating live, you are able to just speak up and ask your question. Or you can hover over the left side of your screen and click the chat icon, which will then bring up the chat box and you can type your question there. For those of you watching live out on YouTube, please feel free to type your question in the comment box and we can relay that to our presenters. And then finally, you can always post your question in the Google Plus event page, and we will also make sure that that is relayed to the presenters. So to get started, a quick run of show how we're going to handle things. I'm going to first turn it over to my colleagues here at the IBMF to introduce themselves. Then we're going to turn it over to each of the winners to introduce themselves, their business name, and what prize or prizes they won at the National Conference. And then finally, I will go through a series of 3 or 4 questions to each participant, really aimed at providing you with some insight as to how they won and how they prepared for the competition. So Tina, I'll turn things over to you, then we'll go to Katie and Mirza.
Great, thank you so much, Mike, and welcome everyone to our hangout for the EBV Business Plan Competition winners. I am the Director of Residency Education Programs here at the Institute for Veterans and Military Families. Our team executes all of the training programs for the Entrepreneurship Bootcamp for Veterans with Disabilities, the Entrepreneurship Bootcamp for Veterans Families, and VWISE, the Veteran Women Igniting the Spirit of Entrepreneurship. Katie, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, sorry. Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Francino, and I am the EBV National Program Coordinator. So I'm really responsible for the day-to-day operations of our EBV program and our EBV Families program. So both programs are held at Syracuse University, as well as 7 other universities around the country. And I also do all of the admissions for all of the other consortium schools that are involved with EBV. And I'm also responsible for assisting in the planning and management of the EBV National Conference as well. Thanks.
And last but not least, Mirza.
Mirza, you're on mute.
Okay, well we'll get Mirza squared away with his microphone. Why don't we turn things over to the competitors? We'll start with Tanner. Tanner, why don't you introduce yourself, your business name, and what you won?
Yeah, I'm the CEO and founder of Operation Purple Hearts of Gold. We're a nonprofit serving wounded veterans and Gold Star family members. And I won first place in the pitch plan competition, and I split the prize of Best Venture Impacting Veterans with the Veterans Healing Farm.
Very good, thank you. Next, we will go to Nicole and John.
Hey, we're Nicole and John Mashi from Veterans Healing Farm, and we won first place for the Best Overall Venture, and then we shared the Venture Impacting Veterans with Tanner.
Very good, thank you. Ken, we'll go to you next.
I'm Ken Notari. I'm the COO of Nude Food. We intend to bring farm to table to the quick service market, and I won second prize in the business plan competition.
Thank you, and finally, Ryan.
Hey, Ryan Otteson, owner of Otteson & Company. We won 5th place in the business pitch competition. We have a real estate management consulting company, and we really focus on housing our homeless veterans.
Thank you, Ryan. We'll give Mirza another shot. Okay, well, we will move on past Mirza. So I'm going to start with Tanner. So the first question I have, and this question is going to be posed to all of you, And I'll go right down the order that we just introduced ourselves. But first of all, Tanner, how did you prepare for the competition?
Well, I think I cheated a little bit. As you know, being a nonprofit, we're kind of always going out and trying to sell ourselves to people almost on a daily basis. So, you know, I had quite a bit of practice talking about my venture, you know, what it is we were doing, and so I'm a bit of a procrastinator. I tend to take things and kind of crash course myself. So other than doing the business plan early on, I kind of took my normal pitch and you know, just kind of started practicing the day before, and I actually screwed up and practiced for 3 minutes. Somehow I had gotten 90 seconds twisted in my head to be 3 minutes. Don't ask me how. But getting in the conference room and seeing the minute and a half on the screens, I was like, you got to be kidding me. So I ran out into the hallway, and while everybody else was doing their pitch, I was trying to condense mine back down to a minute and a half. And I think I got a little bit lucky.
Very good. Thanks for sharing. Nicole and John, how did you prepare?
You know, as far as preparing to even submit the business plan, we got a lot of help, and that would be something that I would really recommend to people. We got connected with SCORE, the local chapter of SCORE, which is Free Business Council, and we had a friend that her husband owns her own business, and so she helped a lot. We had another veteran that helped us. We were just constantly getting people to look at it, you know, and talking with people about our ideas and kind of refining it. It even actually changed quite a bit from when I submitted the business plan originally through, because I was a graduate of EBVF, it changed quite a bit from when we submitted it for the business plan competition, because we were just constantly like looking at it and thinking about it and getting advice. So.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Ken, how did you prepare?
I think very similar to the Mashies. I had started pretty early and really benefited from having a broad audience review our plan. What was tricky about the EBV competition was we had a 40-page plan that we needed to pare down to 25. So to do that and still capture the meat of what we were trying to convey was a pretty tricky endeavor in itself, but panned out, and it was through the heavy lifting of a lot of people from both my military career and the folks that we've built into our network to ensure that we still had a cohesive product. For the pitch competition, it was interesting in that we also used a SBA function, but we used the Small Business Development Center in our local area, and they convened a panel, and I was able to do a practice pitch, and that was on Thursday prior to the competition. What was interesting about that was we had really put together a business plan brief rather than a sales pitch. So after the conclusion of my 15-minute spiel, the SBDC folks were like, that's not going to fly. I mean, we had no idea what you guys are doing. So over the course of the next 36 hours or whatever, my wife and I, and my wife's the CEO of our company, had to paddle pretty hard to put together an actual sales pitch. And I had to drive down from Virginia, so I was up pretty late Friday trying to get my shtick together. Through a miscommunication with MRSA, I was not aware that I was to give the elevator pitch until pretty early Sunday morning. I was optimistic, so I had practiced, and it was really nothing more than being informed that I had to do it, but I was up fairly late. I went to the park across the street from the hotel to write the pitch on Saturday afternoon, practiced late into the night, and then I found out in the morning and wheeled that thing out Sunday morning in a rush. Over to you.
Hey, Ryan?
Yeah, I would say preparation for the business plan itself was probably, if we're being honest, lacking. It was sort of a last-minute thing. Trish and I are really involved already in terms of getting veterans into houses, and we kind of have a portfolio of real estate we manage. And when Tracy was at EBVF, it was really the focus of how do we write a plan that will allow us to own a building in order to better house our veterans. And through the course of trying to raise capital and talk to people about that, we actually stumbled across Volunteers of America who offered us a contract And so really it was sort of last minute in terms of let's submit this business plan, let's put it together. So I will honestly take some advice from these other guys and send it out to a broader range of people for the business plan. In regard to the pitch, I do pretty well with public speaking, especially short notice, quick blurbs of energy. But the preparation for that was really, I just kind of wrote it all down on a piece of paper. My wife and I call it throwing up. I just threw up all over a piece of paper, lined out some stuff that she, then I handed it off to Tracy. She always goes through and proofreads everything, takes a look at it, says, hey, that nobody cares about that. You've already said that 3 times. We don't need that. And she really is good at cutting a lot of fat off of my table. And then it just on the plane ride over there, I'm lucky the Lord blessed me with a pretty good sense of memory, so I just read it on the plane ride over there.
Thank you very much. I think we, third time's the charm, we'll be able to get Mirza to introduce himself. For those of you watching who have been a part of the EBV and VWise program, you've probably interacted with Mirza on one time or another, so I'll let Mirza introduce himself.
Hello everybody, sorry for the challenges I've been having with my microphone. Again, my name is Mirza Tinic. I'm Director of Program Support Services here at the Institute for Veterans and Military Families. It's been my pleasure to work with everybody. I've been blessed to work with the Technical Assistance Program, so when everybody graduates from the EBV program or any other program that's related to entrepreneurship, I kind of help with them directly or indirectly with our team of the Technical Assistance Program, also famously known as TAP.
Thanks, Mirza. So next, we'll start with Ryan on this one. Ryan, what is something that you learned from this experience that you really didn't know either about yourself, about presenting, or about your business going into the competition?
Good. So I think a couple things that I would say that I didn't know about myself would be I actually got nervous, and I don't normally get nervous when it goes to speaking, and I don't know if that was because everybody else had done such a great job at the pitch before me, or what that was. So I would say I definitely learned there was a little bit of nerves that I actually had getting up in front of a crowd. And then I would say about the business, I always thought that housing veterans was as simple as own the real estate, get the veterans. The government owns real estate. They create the veterans. They have programs in place. It should be this simple. But like I mentioned earlier with the Volunteers of America, there's an actual 4-part process in there that there is such a need for that they're asking case managers to work on that it took our business from what I thought was going to be maybe a little larger scope. Here's a house or here's an apartment building and putting veterans in there, to very specific needs that are required across the nation. Whether it's the Volunteers of America, the VA, or different housing authorities. So I was surprised that there was very specific things out there that was required and not being fulfilled at this time. So I would say trying to put that plan together really opened up my eyes to that need.
Very good, thank you. Ken, what's something that you learned over the course of this process?
I think one of the most significant takeaways for my wife and I is the need to reach out and rely on other people. We hear it time and time again about surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you are. And I think at the tender age of 45, you think you know everything. And it was the assistance of many, many other people that brought us around. I don't think I understood the value of networking during my military career. I felt like even if it was from a different service or a different command within the Air Force, people were generally pulling in the same direction, and that's just not true in the public sector. But by building a network, you can kind of push through some of those barriers that you wouldn't otherwise be able to. And those are probably the 2 most significant takeaways for us.
Thank you very much. Nicole and John?
Same question?
Same question, yes. So what did you learn from this experience that you didn't really know going into it, or you gained more knowledge on after it?
You want to answer?
Yeah, for me it was just really empowering. It was a very intimidating process for me it took me forever to even get started on the business plan because I was just intimidated by it, something I wasn't familiar with, something I'd never done before, and I didn't want to do it incorrectly. And so just kind of pushing through that difficulty, and the same for the pitch. I mean, up until like the day we came, I was like, I'm not doing the pitch with you. You need to do it. You have to be the front man. Like, I'm not getting up in front of people. And so just realizing that, like, I'm capable, you know, of more than maybe I think, or just kind of overcoming some fear was really great. And just the whole process just made us think long and hard about the organization and what exactly we're trying to accomplish, where we want to take it. I mean, so many things came up as far as, like, we need to take that out. That's not going to work. That's not feasible, you know. So it was just a really, really beneficial process overall.
Thank you very much. Then Tanner.
You know, I think the biggest thing that I learned was, you know, having just really come up with this idea and created it. I mean, I incorporated in August, so I really, you know, kind of struggled just to get this stuff together and get ready before the conference. It was definitely a goal when I incorporated to try to make the national convention, and really just the feedback I got from everybody, having gotten up there and seeing the type of response it got, and you know, it's one thing to tell, you know, civilians, you know, what it is you're doing, and yeah, we're helping the troops, we're going to help the families, and to have them react, but to have the military community themselves, you know, guys that, you know, served and stuff like that, to really get behind the idea and kind of validate what it is that we're doing. That was the biggest takeaway for me, is just you know, seeing what my peers thought about it.
Thanks. So the next question will start with Nicole and John, and it's kind of piggybacking off what I just asked. But, you know, what would you do differently next time, whether it was in preparation for the pitch or developing out your business plan, getting ready for a competition like this?
What would I do differently? I might have to think about this for a second. I mean, in some ways, it's hard to know because it ended up working out really well. You know,
you almost don't want to jinx it. Leave it alone.
I probably wouldn't have dragged my feet as much. And so I would have started a little earlier. But that was just kind of went back to just being intimidated by the process.
And you know what? If you don't want to change anything, that's quite. You know, that's a completely fine answer as well.
The one thing that when we both went up there for the 90-second pitch, we had practiced going through the actual pitch, but not rehearsing walking. And so I think even down to that detail, you know, for me, if I had to do it over again, we would have kind of practiced just walking up and who's going to stand where. It got a little bit difficult, and then I think I kicked a water bottle over and knocked something off the podium, and so those are the kind of things you can't necessarily anticipate, but in hindsight, I mean, sure, I would have definitely not you know, made a big scene out there, but I think to some degree it wasn't necessarily a bad thing, so you just kind of roll through the punches with that kind of stuff.
Thanks. We'll go to Ken next.
I had kind of a similar reaction as I thought through the question, that because things worked out, I don't know how much that I would change either. And I think I shared some of the same experience that John had, and that not being familiar with a format, I started my 90 seconds before Jared had cued me and all the rest, so that just kind of gets you off your game a little bit. But what I thought was, rather than what I would necessarily change, what I thought was really cool about the experience is, hopefully this isn't the last time we ever have to give these types of presentations, and down the road the stakes are going to be even higher, you know, as we try to get more financing or whatever. So to be able to do it once, it was an excellent opportunity to take what we looked at as somewhat of a canned product and then sort of last minute shape it to a specific audience, and down the road we'll have the opportunity to do that again. But certainly an invaluable opportunity to get out there and you know, just hang it out there in front of a whole lot of people you don't know. Over to you.
Okay, Ryan, we'll go to you next.
All right, so I think that if I had to do it over again, I would probably spend more time breaking the numbers down. I think that what we try to accomplish is hard to put into a monetary terms. What does that look like? How do we go out there and make profit on that? And I really relied on a pending contract as opposed to saying, hey, here's the actual structure. Here's what it would break down. As soon as you guys came back and said, hey, you didn't make the top 10, I immediately started the after action report and said, okay, what could I have done better? So I was looking at the business plan side of it right out of the gate and where I fell short. And I understand the importance of knowing the numbers. I don't know that I did a good enough job presenting them where it looked like there was viability and sustainability in the company, where my second looking at it, or the second take of it, I really think maybe the company seemed to say, hey, look, if we can do this, then yay, we'll have a fizzle, and there was no substance to the numbers. It seemed kind of far-fetched. So I think explaining the numbers better, having them broken down better, I would have done that differently.
Very good. And then Tanner?
I think I would have gone, John and them's route with having more people be able to check over my business plan. I definitely kind of, like I said, I threw it together as quick as I could. I actually had 2 people that had offered to help me write it, and me, hoping to get as much help as I could. I waited too long and allowed them to kind of drop the ball for me to where it ended up, it's now or never. I've got to do it myself. And, it would have been good to have had it done earlier so that, you guys could have looked at it. I could have had it to other professionals to go over and tell me where I was lacking. I would have liked to have done a lot more nonprofit-based research to have included in the business plan. And then definitely it would have been great to have my fiance there, like Ken. She's the one that trims the fat, so she would have definitely caught the fact that I was planning my pitch plan for 3 minutes instead of a minute and a half. So definitely like to have somebody there backing me up to make sure I'm not, basically screwing the pooch before I even get started.
Thanks. Well, apparently I just lost my lights in my office, so I didn't shut the lights off. But I want to do a quick kind of impromptu poll, knowing that this is all personal preference. How many of you actually memorized your pitch versus kind of went up there with speaking points? We'll start with Ken, just what your method was.
For the 15-minute brief, I had a lot more time to prepare for that, and I think it was probably closer to knowing what I wanted to say rather than having to memorize it. When we went into the 90-second speech, I figured I was pretty much just going to have to read it. And when Jared said, remember, no visual aids, I was really concerned that that meant notes as well. I really didn't know what exactly he meant by it. When Lori, I think, had notes with her as well, I was relieved. So I tried not to make it look like I was reading, but admittedly, I was pretty much just straight reading my notes during the 90-second pitch. I would think as the program moves forward, I wouldn't certainly force people to memorize anything. I don't think that's the way to go. This isn't I don't think that's what the focus should be. It really should be about the concept and the message rather than too much on the delivery. Over to you.
Very good. Tanner, what was your method? How did you go into it?
Actually, I did kind of memorize what I was going to say. I'm sure I didn't come off exactly the way I was memorizing it, but I had certain points I wanted to make, and I knew I only had 90 seconds to make them, so I wanted to make sure I didn't run out of time. So memorization for me was key because it allowed me to hit every one of those points without running out of time. There's a lot of competitors that were going along, and you could tell they were trying to think of it in their head as they went. So running out of time, to me, if I ran out of time, I wasn't going to get my message across. So yeah, that was very important to me.
Okay, Mashies, what was your approach to it?
For the judges panel, it worked out pretty well because just a couple weeks before the competition, John had presented to the Rotary Club and had to put together a PowerPoint, which he changed some for the presentation to the judges, but he kind of had that starting point, which was helpful. And we were doing the 90-second pitch, like writing that pretty much the day before we went, right?
Okay. Yeah, I definitely just referred to notes. I think you memorized yours, right?
Yeah, but my lines were really short, but I still had notes in case I got, stage fright and needed to look down.
I had the experience the year prior to that. I did the 90-second pitch as well, and totally ran out of time for that. So I didn't want to do that again. And it's just such a short period of time, and I think for folks that haven't done it before, even if you have public speaking experience, it's easy to kind of naively assume that you got plenty of time. But when you actually get up there and your heart starts racing, you get off track real easy. And, I think the crowd is a little bit intimidating. There was a lot on the line, so it's easy to just get psyched out. So we just stuck to the notes, and I probably look down most of the time, which I don't think is a problem at all. But with the judges panel, I mean, we had so much time. That was a totally different story. I just had the PowerPoint with the basic bullets up there. And like Nicole said, I had been, I had some experience with already presenting it, so that made it a lot easier.
Very good. And Ryan, finally with you.
I agree with Tanner in terms of the memorization aspect of it. I think that when you're trying to hit a competition that says 90 seconds, if 91, you're dead in the water. And I like to ramble. So that's, again, why I have my wife trim a lot of the fat off. So if I don't memorize it, that 90 seconds will look like an hour or 90 minutes. So I memorized it. I just think it allows you to then use other aspects of public speaking where you can worry about your eye contact and worry about where you're walking up there like the Mashies talked about earlier. So I absolutely memorized it.
Thanks. And the point of me asking that was just to really explore the different techniques that everyone does. It's what you're comfortable with. It's what you rehearse. It's your public speaking style. So Tina asked a question, and I think this is very important to bring up. And she wanted to know, what piece of advice would you have, and we'll start with you, Ryan, for those who are intimidated to enter into the competition. What advice would you give to them?
I would tell them first to remember who they are. Right? At one point they're a veteran. They served this country. They don't need to be intimidated of anything. They've already done and accomplished more than most people. So then I would tell them gently from my Marine Corps side to knock it off and let's go. This is your job, right? This is your profession. You chose not to punch a time card, and part of being an entrepreneur is getting out there, shaking hands, giving the pitch, putting your business plan out there, and really networking and setting yourself apart. If everyone's out there trying to get one contract or get one job or raise money, and you're battling with other nonprofits for dollars, you need to be able to set yourself apart. I think to be a successful entrepreneur, this is a skill you have to have. You need to be able to hit a pitch. You need to be able to put together a plan, a presentation. And so I would say, first, remember who you are. You're a veteran. You've already accomplished way more than most people. This shouldn't be that big of an issue for you. And then just throw it out there. I think some of the other participants already mentioned it, it's good. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it, the more fluent you get with it. So take the first step. It's always the hardest, but take it.
Okay, Tanner, we'll go to you. What advice would you give those who may be intimidated to participate?
Well, I mean, that's what we talk about in entrepreneurship, right? That's the biggest obstacle of starting a business in the first place is, procrastination. If you don't take that next step and actually start something and do it, then you're, most businesses never fail because most businesses never get started. So I looked at it the same way with the competition. If I didn't take my chances, then the only person I was hurting was myself. So, it just comes to overcoming your fear and how bad do you want it.
Okay, Ken, we'll go to you next.
I would certainly agree with what everyone said about their veteran experience and jumping into the entrepreneurial fray. The only other things that I would add is that's how we all grow. It's stepping into those areas where we're not comfortable, and that's how you can sort of shore up your flank a little bit if there are things you're not comfortable with. And as I mentioned earlier, while this was a big damn deal, it's not likely the highest stakes that we're ever going to participate in our entrepreneur pursuits. That if you're pitching to investors or a bank or whatever, that may be the make or break moment for you. And being able to get this experience on the belt was extremely valuable to my wife and I. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, and then we'll finish up with the mashies.
For me, like I said, it was just getting that help, getting somebody to kind of walk alongside me, and just kind of walk me through some of the process. But then also knowing I was going to have a meeting with someone, next week. I couldn't show up empty-handed, so it really got me, kept me accountable as far as making progress goes.
Great. Go ahead, John.
Real quick for me, I think also, as was said earlier, the biggest thing is just perspective and recognizing, like I think it was Edison said, I didn't fail at making a light bulb 1,000+ times. I learned 1,000+ ways not to make it. And I mean, that's just the reality of what we're doing. I mean, if you've not done it before and you don't have the ability to accept the fact that you're probably going to screw it up initially, and then you're going to get better and you're going to get better, and you just got to stick with it until finally you're able to, and this is with all things, right? So specifically with this, I mean, it was one of those situations to where just having that mindset that I'm not concerned with whether or not I'm going to make a mistake. My biggest thing is just pursuing, trying to figure out how to do it right and relying on the help of people. For me, with my web development business, after last year's competition, I was able to take on the first prize winner, Sandra, and then also Zona, who I think she won second, and Ben, who won the best venture helping veterans last year. And so I was fortunate enough to have 3 clients and friends that had won, and so I bugged those guys all day prior to the competition, just trying to get insight and learn from their experience and just kind of glean from their wisdom. So that was very beneficial.
So building off this question, and thank you all for your responses. As entrepreneurs, we throw around the term bootstrapping. And can you talk a little bit, and we'll start with Nicole and John, the impact that this prize will have on your business?
So you're saying bootstrapping as far as?
So in regards to the value of the prize and putting yourself out there and, as a result, getting the funding and how that's going to affect your business as you move forward.
Well, bootstrapping, in my mind, maybe I'm misunderstanding you, but that's more of like hustling and figuring out ways to stretch a dollar.
So what I'm saying is, based on the fact that you bootstrap on a day-to-day basis, receiving a prize such as this that may not be budgeted, can you talk about the impact of that?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest things that just recently happened for us, and just to put a little bit of context, is so we run this nonprofit where essentially we've got a bunch of veterans coming in, and I couldn't have anticipated having won $35,000. It's a lot of money, and so essentially on our plan, we were originally looking at postponing something I was very excited about, which was trying to buy a 40-foot shipping container as a bunkhouse to have a retreat center for veterans. And when we got back, I went on eBay, and it was almost surreal. It was like the Lord just lined up the stars, and there was a unit that went on eBay, and which was built for FEMA, $75,000, custom, incredible. I won't even go into the details, but it's just incredible. And next thing I know, it's a 3-day auction, no reserve. It was a $10,000 starting bid, and nobody bid on it. And so I was able to buy this thing, and now this dream, and then even after that, I think 2 days ago, anyone that's familiar with farming, BCS is like the name brand tiller, and this BCS tiller was on Craigslist, and it's basically probably a $1,500 tiller, and I was able to get it for $300. So I mean, it's the timing kind of thing, and what I've realized is, like, life's filled with seasons, and there have been seasons on this path to be an entrepreneur to where it's a struggle, and it seems like for whatever reason none of the doors are opening, but I look at that as just character development, and you push through that, and now it's almost as if now we're in a different season, and the doors are opening. And so by winning these prizes, and now as I'm just going forward, it just feels almost effortless, and it's been really cool.
It's just been huge. I mean, it's such a blessing, and we have been bootstrapping and doing everything we can, you know, so tightly for so long that for me, I mean, just the peace of mind that knowing that we're going to have, you know, some money in the bank that we need something for the farm, it's not going to have to go on our credit card. It's really great, you know, it's huge. So we're really thankful.
Thank you very much. Tanner, we'll go with you next. What does winning this prize mean to you and to your venture?
Well, I mean, it's huge. Like I have to keep going back to the fact that we just literally incorporated in August. I saw a need for the veteran community, and I was like, I want to do it, and this is actually going to allow me to dig deeper and move further faster. Competing with 44,000 other veteran service organizations for funding, it's kind of hard to convince people with money to say, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go with you guys. You guys, I don't even have my 501c3 yet. We just finished the paperwork, so it's going to allow me to pay for that for one. I mean, that's $850, and so to have this money come in, it's just going to help me just hit the ground running a lot quicker. We just ran our first event this past weekend. Myself and some other wounded vets and a Gold Star Navy SEAL widow ran the Tough Mudder, and then I took 2 widows and another wounded vet, and we went to the Bucks game and had box seats donated to us from the NDIA, National Defense Industrial Association. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a blessing. I don't know if I didn't have this to rely on, I'd still be scraping, really just trying to get moving. Thanks.
Ryan, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, so Tracy and I already own a couple of rental properties, and we literally within the last week got a Air Force veteran who was transitioning out of active duty and didn't know where he was going to live. His wife was just got accepted to Loma Linda University, and they're struggling to find a place to live. They didn't have rental history because he was in the Air Force. And so this money actually is going to go right into their house. I mean, this is exactly what we said we wanted to do, which is be able to take a house, turn it into a nice place to live, and either get a veteran off the street or prevent them from becoming homeless. And so this money will directly impact a house that a veteran is living in, because a tenant moved out, we had to improve it, and it'll allow us to give them a little extra something that they might not have had before, paint the exterior, do some other things to it. So it will immediately impact an Air Force veteran transitioning out now. So it's phenomenal. Like John and Nicole said, that to not have to put it on your credit card, to not have to figure out how that's going to happen, to be able to give him, give this veteran and his wife a decent place to live instead of just an average place to live, right? I want to make sure that they get a nice quality home, and that this will directly impact that.
Thanks. And Ken?
I can think of 4 different ways where it's going to benefit our adventure. The first of which, it's another part of EBV that really hadn't been mentioned yet, but because I submitted my business plan within 6 months of finishing the program, I got the $3,000 grant. Well, we're still essentially living on that $3,000 from a business perspective. We've been able to set up the corporation and do some trademarking work and a bunch of other things. We still have at least a third of that money left. But now that we have this prize money, what it means, and I don't mean to be flip, but it's like cheap money to us. When we look at the other ways that we were going to have to finance our venture, they were going to have some very long-term costs associated with them. And by sliding this bundle of money in there, it means that it's going to be cheaper in the long run. Second, it's allowed us to open up our aperture in commercial real estate that we're looking for. We're having trouble finding restaurant space here in Charlottesville to get things started, but this has sort of changed slightly what might be available to us. The exposure, being able to say that you're a winner, a second place finisher in a national competition is quite nice. And then finally, because of all you guys, it has occurred to me that there really isn't a network of former military chefs and cooks. So I thought about reaching out to, I believe it's Fort Lee or Eustis here in Virginia, to help try to build that network so that we can place some of those folks into positions when they leave service as well.
Thank you very much. So how we're going to do this now is Tina has a couple quick questions that I'll let her jump back on camera and ask. And then what we'll do is we'll have some parting knowledge and last comments prior to closing out. So Tina, if you want to hop on and ask a couple of your questions.
Well, I'll join Tina in asking the questions. Just quick question for you all. The overall experiences that you've had with the EBV business plan competition. What is it that we as EBV can do better to make your life easier? Or what resources can we provide to help you better prepare? And whoever wants to start? Maybe the business plan winners can start, and then we can move to the pitch competition winners. John, Ken,
Yeah.
what can we do better from our end here to help you better prepare for the business plan competition?
I would be incredibly hesitant to ever criticize the EBV. I mean, what you guys do is beyond. I mean, I just can't be grateful enough. And so, from that perspective, I think the organization is incredible. I think what you guys do is just fantastic. You know, trying to just come up with something as far as constructive criticism is concerned. I think potentially having maybe if you guys could. And it might even be in the works, but to have almost micro networks where you connect a group or help facilitate the connection of a group of EBV graduates, whether it be through Google Hangouts or something of that nature, to hatch things out. I think sometimes veterans, as just a general stereotype, are very kind of independent, and we want help, but we have a hard time asking for it sometimes, and so. That one particular thing for me, at least, you know, it was certainly. I was fortunate enough for this go around where I had gone through the experience last year with my WNC Web Solutions firm, and so. But back then, you know, I really was wanting to kind of get people's insight, but I just didn't know anyone, and I felt kind of awkward just going through a list to ask for help. And so once I went through that program and I went to the NatCon, I met people, and I had the ability this go around to tap into that resource. I felt like it was tremendously beneficial. So maybe providing that, does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Ryan, would you like to go?
I'm with the Mashies. I'm hesitant to critique EBV after I've been out now.
It's okay.
I say that honestly, not because I need to stroke anybody's ego. I've been out a while now. I was part of the invasion in '03, and so I've been out 10 years, and I've bounced through a couple of in and out of veterans programs. And again, to be frank, they're all pretty pathetic. But literally, EBV has been one that has been pretty spot on. So when I say I hate to critique it, I generally hate to critique it. If, again, for constructive criticism, anything, and this could be my lack of participation, so if you already do this, I apologize, is maybe a detailed breakdown. I think that my wife Tracy went to Syracuse, I went to Purdue, and their focus on business plans are different. One's a commercialization plan, one's a business plan. What does that look like? Again, I can talk all day long, but for me to sit down in front of this computer and write a business plan, it's torture. Right? I mean, I'd rather bounce my head off a wall. So maybe if there was something that said, hey, let's work on just the executive summary, let's report back together in a week, and how did everybody do? Okay, great. Now the next part would be this, and you guys have 1 week to write 5 sentences, we'll see you, and again. I think maybe something like that would be beneficial, and again, if it's already there, excuse my lack of participation.
All right, excellent.
Can I go to Ken?
Something that I've struggled with, and I was going to ask at the end of this meeting, and this may be wholly on me as well. Obviously, what the organization is about is helping veterans. As a potential entrepreneur, I've had a lot of difficulty tapping into established organizations, likely nonprofits, that are looking for job placement for veterans. I've done the Google search. I've done some asking around. I'm part of a veterans entrepreneurs group here in my hometown, and I have not been able to come up with a concise list of how I might be able to reach out to hire people. So if that's something EBV is assembled and I'm missing it, or if somebody could shoot that to me, I would be very appreciative.
Okay. Shoot an email to ebvtap@syr.edu. So anytime you guys have any concerns, you're hesitant, should you talk to Tina or me, just send an email to ebvtap@syr.edu. And don't worry, if you don't have the answer, we'll find the answer for you.
Great, thank you.
Want to go to Tanner?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I hate to sound like a broken record. Same thing. Hard to critique. You know, I'm telling people left and right that the EBV is by far and away the best program, you know, that I've participated in since leaving the military. And the one thing that I could think of off the top of my head is being somebody who graduated last year and actually didn't get started on his business until August of this year, because I completely changed directions. You know, decided that what I was presenting at the EBV the first time, I had really no interest in doing. It was just, you know, luckily I'm a fraternity brother of Jared's, and he was kind of banging down my door saying, "Get off your butt and go do this." And you know, it led to inspiration. But having been almost a year removed, or actually being a year removed from the course, you know, trying to dig through my materials, find my resources to try to start figuring out how to do a business plan. Aside from you guys sending out the email with here's our business plan templates and stuff like that, to give you those resources like John and the Mashies talked about, having the score nearby, the SBA, stuff like that. You know, me trying to rack my brain and be like, okay, who can I go to help me try to figure out how to write a business plan, because I've never done it before. You know, I kind of got lucky. I found a template online that a woman did, you know, for nonprofits. She says, all I ask is you give me a shout out, saying that that's where you got my business plan from. So here's our shout out, even though I can't remember her name right now. But it really helped me put that together in the last little bit there. And had I not had that, you know, I probably would not have made the deadline. So that would be the one thing I could think of is, you know, make sure those participation, people wanting to participate, get that information again, say here's the links, these are the people that you can track down, and just refresh us. That would be the only thing I can think of.
All right, thanks, Tanner. And Ken had one more comment that he wanted to say on this.
I did, and this is another topic I'm likely just lacking in my own preparation. But I offered it as feedback at the end of my Cornell session last year. It seemed like as veteran entrepreneurs, we all have the intent of hiring veterans down the line, and I don't have a very good understanding of my responsibility as an entrepreneur to accommodate people that are disabled, possibly from service or any other reason. Is that something that EBV has brought into the various curricula? And if anybody has a resource they can share in that regard, I'd appreciate it as well. Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Can I say just one more thing?
Yes,
of course,
sir.
Now I have no critiques, and now I got two, right? So I don't know that it's necessarily a critique, but I think there is the Mashies had a great opportunity with SCORE, and I live in LA. Not the city of a little suburb, but if I was going to go to SCORE or SBA, I'm dealing with thousands of people trying to use that. And I think that the EBV has such a huge resource and collection of data. I don't know if it's possible, but I went to Purdue, Tracy went to Syracuse, UCLA is a couple hours from us. Maybe there's something in the future where every 6 months, once a year, people that are in those regions can start tapping into those resources. Maybe, again, it's my lack of effort for not calling UCLA's EBV course and saying, hey, I graduated Purdue, I need some help, hey, we're local. Maybe that's my lack of initiative, but even if it was just bringing guys together and saying, hey, we'd like to recognize you as being EBV graduates, and each of the universities did maybe a regional thing once a year besides the national convention, that might get more people involved, open up more resources than just banging and standing. For me to go to SCORE SBA, no way. I'm so far down the line, it's not funny. But EBV, I know, has some good resources. So maybe a regional thing might work out.
All right, thanks. That's a great point. And thank you for sharing that. So I think at this point, to stay on task and on schedule, why don't we start with Tanner, then we'll go to the Mashies, Ken, and then we'll finish up with Ryan, just on kind of your parting knowledge. Any last tips you want to give to folks who are either launching a venture or considering competing in a venture pitch or business plan competition?
Yeah, it just goes back to Nike slogan, just do it. I mean, that's all I can really, the best advice I can give. Preparation, me, I think I got a little bit lucky. I scrambled last minute, and I think I pulled at some heartstrings with my story and the injuries and the people that we're going to help. So I think that actually benefited us. But at the end of the day, if you're sit on the sidelines, that's where you're going to stay. So just go for it. That's the best advice I can give.
Okay, Nicole and John.
Yeah. Do you want?
I just had a quick thing I was going to say, just to be thorough and to not just do it to get it done and get it submitted. I think for me, because I was intimidated by it, I just wanted to get it over with and get it off my brain and off my checklist. And so when we had it almost done and then there was this major part that needed to change, I was like, no! I don't want to, work on this anymore, but it was worth it to really use that as an opportunity to really flesh out the vision for our organization, and now I'm confident that we can move forward with a lot more clarity.
I would just say, for me, two things. One is with the EBV, I've been able to get some mentors, and so what I was referring to before was more of peer critiquing. But the mentors that the EBV have provided have just been a lifeline. There's no question as far as encouragement, support, guidance, just 5 stars, very, very good guys. And then in addition to the mentorship, I feel like one of the things is after I got out of the military, so me being an entrepreneur, it's how I'm wired. It has to be. But I've done, say, 6 different businesses, and even my web development, which is what I went to the EBV for and what I'm currently doing to pay our bills, I've done all these different ventures because I'm trying to provide for my family, and I'm just not really cut out for an 8 to 5. But I haven't ever had that passion that they always talk about. You listen to entrepreneurs, they always say, follow your passion, follow the thing that really gives you life. And I haven't had that, and yet, going to a 8 to 5 is worse than just being my own boss. So I pursued all these ventures, and the reality is, now I do. And so if anyone is experiencing that sense of well, I don't know what that looks like, it's okay. You just keep going forward. And I do believe it, because there was a time where I was cynical, and I was like, you know what, that's never going to happen. And it's kind of like falling in love, though, until you meet the one, you can't imagine how wonderful they're going to be. So that was my experience with just the road of becoming an entrepreneur and doing something that I genuinely am passionate about.
Great, thanks for sharing that. Next, we'll go to Ken.
Yeah, I don't know if I have much to add to either of those comments. I think they're absolutely spot on. The only thing that I might add to it is to continue to try to spread the word. I didn't find out about EBV until a chance meeting. I was at the Culinary Institute of America with a Cornell representative. So there seems to be a fantastic number of active duty and veterans who have no idea that these resources are available to them. That I just tied into a veteran entrepreneurs group here in Charlottesville, and none of them had heard of this either. It's important that we try to get the word out so others can learn from this as well. Thanks.
Thanks, Ken. And Ryan, why don't you bring us home?
I'm going to piggyback with the Nike just do it, right? I talked about earlier, you've already done stuff greater than most people can imagine, and so don't let a piece of paper or 90 seconds in front of a microphone slow you down. A lot of us sometimes are isolationists like John had talked about, and we kind of reserve and pull back to ourselves. We don't really assimilate well. But at the end of the day, they still asked George Washington to come lead the Second Continental Congress, and I think he answered, have I not yet done enough? And his answer was no, and he later became the president, and I think the same goes for us. Have we not yet done enough? The answer is no, including writing your business plan. So just do it. Write your 90-second pitch. Just do it. If we're going to be the best and the brightest that the United States talks about, then let's be the best and the brightest, and let's go get our country back.
Thank you very much. And thank you to all the winners who participated today. This was an absolute awesome hangout. And we have to, drop a thanks to DAB and the Bob Woodruff Foundation for providing the funding for us to even put on a competition like this. So, with that being said, good luck in all your ventures. We're always here for you at IBMF with whatever you need. Mirza said EBV tap at syr.edu or give us a call, and we're happy to help you. And we look forward to seeing you all at the National Convention next year. So with that being said, we will close out. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.